Yeah.
Hi, how are all of you? And I'm really happy to be talking to all the Desis living in Videsh and for all of you signing in from across Americas and Europe and UK and Africa and UAE. Namaste and thank you very much for signing up with us today and for being here live while we talk about how can you uplift and how can you live according to your food culture while you live in a place that is foreign. So well, it's very simple, it's very easy, and I'm going to tell you a few things about how you can go about doing just that. But before that, well, Dubai is not very far away from Mumbai or from India in general. But even when people just go to Dubai, when they go there to settle, they say that within just a year of being in Dubai, they seem to have what is called as the Dubai weight. They seem to be fatter than what they were in India. And they seem to be peculiarly fat, where they feel like their midriff is kind of spilling out, where the stomach feels a little rounder than, a little rounder than what it used to, where their hair is like kind of starts falling after every wash. The skin begins to get pigmented. Some of my young girls who go from here all the way to US say to me things like, okay, they now have pus-filled acne, which they never used to have earlier. But basically what I'm trying to say is that you shift out of a country like India and you go to a more sanitized place, whether it is the UAE or it's Europe or it's Americas or the Australian continent and stuff like that, and you feel that the body has begun to change. It's the same thing with Africa, but I think a whole lot of Indian Africans have been in Africa for a very long time. So what really changes? What changes when you go from a country like India into a more sanitized country is that there is a huge change in your gut bacteria or in your friendly gut bacteria. So from diverse societies of friendly gut bacteria that you earlier used to have, because you are now in a more sanitized country, there is actually a shrinkage of this whole diversity of gut bacteria. So you now seem to have lesser diverse societies and lesser numbers of friendly gut bacteria. That's the one thing that begins to happen. It happens because of the change in location. It happens because of change in schedule. It happens because of change in stresses. It happens because of change in food, and it also happens because you are no longer under the loving care of your mommy or nani or dadi. You are now on your own. You're expected to live, work, cook, clean, prep all by yourself, something which most of us have a tough time doing. In fact, right now I do hope that all of you are keeping safe, and almost every country has gone through a whole lockdown stage. In India, of course, we've had lockdown, but probably in India for the first time we are realizing what does it feel like to really do all work by ourselves. How we are kind of spoiled. We have a whole lot of help, but when you guys go abroad, there are certain things that you sign up for. You sign up for living on your own and looking after yourself without a whole ecosystem around you. You also sign up for many more choices than what India had to offer you, and many more choices, not just in terms of education and careers or partners, but also in terms of food. So I kind of find it a little disheartening when Indians living abroad kind of turn around and say, यहाँ क्या लेने का वो पता ही नहीं चलता है. दूध भी लेने जाओ तो बहुत सारे टाइप का दूध मिलता है, एटलीस्ट 100-50 टाइप का दूध. And I want to say to them, this is what you signed up for. You came here for more choices, so now no more cribbing about them. So all right. So like I said, the change in gut bacteria comes because of the change of location, change of schedule, change of food, change of stress, change of every single thing. What can you do to change that, and why must you change it? Well, you should change that, and you should go back to having more diverse societies of bacteria and more friendly bacteria in numbers, of course, because the good bacteria is really important for every aspect of our health. whether it is metabolism, whether it is quality of sleep, whether it is exercise compliance and performance, whether it is hair quality, whether it is skin quality, whether it is moods and irritability, whether it is our hormones. It plays a role in every single thing. So what I'm going to be telling you next is what are the things that you can do to look after yourself and also to look after the microorganisms that live off you. Before I dwell on that, I also want to tell you something. A couple of years ago, I was in the UK, I was attending a nutrition conference, and there was a pediatrician who was presenting on the topic of gut bacteria. And he basically showed us slides, which was one slide which had the gut of a typical Brit kid, and you could see very few societies of gut bacteria. And on the other side, he showed us a typical slide or a typical gut bacteria profile of an African kid. So what one saw is many more diverse societies and large numbers of friendly gut bacteria. And he said, you know, it may appear that African kids don't really have the health care that the Brit kids have, but the Brit kids tend to fall sick more often. They tend to have more inflammation, they have more allergies, they have more intolerances. And one of his theories was that if we got them to have the kind of gut bacteria societies that the African children have, then they will probably have lesser intolerances, lesser inflammation, and lesser allergies. You're all aware that in countries like US, for example, there are schools who will not allow you to come with peanuts in your lunch box, but guns could be legal, you know. So all right, what can you do? Number one, the first fundamental about health that you ought to know is that the best way to stay healthy, to lose fat, and to stay in great shape is to build good habits. Building good habits is easy. Building good habits is a worthy investment of time and money. And building good habits is commonsensical. It doesn't really require a professional or a program or an app for you to learn that. Just the basic simple things of waking up on time, sleeping on time, that's going to do it. I'll work on that later. But good habits about food is the topic for the day. So I'm going to be talking to you about what can you do in terms of food. Well, first of all, what you can do in terms of food is wholeheartedly embrace your food heritage. You belong to a food heritage which is climate resilient. You belong to a food heritage which was future proof, which had, veg protein, which had hashtag cruelty free protein, which had all of those wonderful hashtags even before they became hashtags. You belong to a food heritage which taught you to be grateful for everything on your plate. But besides all of the concepts, what can you actually do? Well, what you can actually do is eat local food. But then everyone says to me, "Yahan par local kya hai?" Well, that's like asking someone in America, "Ke asli American yahan kaun hai?" One of the greatest things about, these kind of countries is that everyone is local. And that is exactly what happens in most countries. So on the one hand, you have this beautiful and well-oiled machinery of logistics and also of, of food and drug administration and stuff like that to ensure that only one kind of quality of food actually reaches your countries and then finally on the shelves. But it can reach your countries and your shelves from across the globe. Mostly it will reach you from countries which are much poorer than the countries that you live in. So it's going to be, if you're in Singapore, a lot of stuff is going to come from Malaysia. I mean, I think water comes from Malaysia. If you are in the UK, US and stuff like that, your sabzis, your bhajis, all of that is coming from Africa. If you are in London, I was talking at my London Open Day, someone said, "Hum log ka tomato bhi Spain se aata hai." So well, in a way it's nice, right, to not have geographical borders. So when you are trying to follow your dadi nani ka wisdom and saying, okay, let me eat local food, what would you need to do? So number one, what you need to do is, like I said, embrace your local food heritage, your food heritage. But within that, the first thing that you need to do is know what is local for you. So the first thing that we start with is the non-perishables. Your dals, your grains, your millets and your spices. ठीक है? दाल मतलब सब टाइप की दाल, मूंग, मटकी, चौली, rajma, chole, lobia, kurit, all of this, you know, it comes in the category of dals, pulses and legumes. All of this stays local to you. You can have this from your food heritage. All your grains, be it wheat, be it rice and millets like bajra, najni, jowar, kuttu, or you know, even sabudana, all of that is also something that you must have. The third thing that you need to have are spices. So spices like your garam masala, your tej patta, black pepper, clove, nutmeg, hing, haldi. So all the non-perishables and your own cuisine of cooking them. These are the four things that you ought to stick to. Dals, legumes and pulses, grains and millets, and of course all of the spices and your own specific way of cooking them. So this becomes one part of your meal. Now, of course, when it comes to spices, use them like the way your dadi and nani taught you to have them. Don't wait for someone to come up with a turmeric latte before you will accept it and stuff like that. And don't even think that there is something wonderful about not touching your spices at all. Oh well, I forgot one thing, oils. So also use your groundnut oil or coconut oil or mustard oil, you know, based on where you come from. And now you get this everywhere. Gone are the days where you wouldn't get these oils at a market close to you. You're now getting them close to you. So please, all of these things and ghee, these are things that you need to have with you. Then what you buy locally, and I would urge all of you to support more farmers movements and support more local markets and support more of you know, what looks like a typical Indian bhaji market, just a little more upscale in your area and neighborhood. So all of your sabzis, try and buy them from there. Your fruits, try and buy them from there. Your milk and milk products, try and buy them from there. And also your meat, fish, eggs, try and get it from there. So these things need to become more region specific, and these things will become more heritage specific. That's the kind of marriage really that you need to make so that you're able to rebuild your gut bacteria. Now I'm going to be telling you that you know, when it comes to more local food, the less processed it is, the better it is. So when we are talking about vegetables for you, vegetables and fruits for you, buy them in a whole way. You know, I mean, I have seen stacks of chopped vegetables at many counters. So don't buy those kind of things. Buy the full thing. Even when it comes to fruits, buy the full fruit or the fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, and not fruits which are like stewed or canned and stuff. So more fresh. When it comes to milk and milk products, the lesser processed they are, the better. So full fat milk and not 2%, 1%, half and half, slim. So these are all processes. So the full milk. When it again comes to meat and meat products, The fresher it is, the better it is. But when it comes to meat and meat products, use your grandmom's wisdom and know that you can eat them sometime in the week, you know, a couple of times in the week, but not every single day. So just keep those basics in your mind. Now how do you really go about making this marriage of local food? And how do you get your children to eat local food? Because a lot of Indians also worry that mere bacche to ye sab kuch nahi khate hain. So well, I have an interesting statistic for you. Within the European Union, the European nations which do not speak in English and speak in their own native language are not as fat or are fitter than European nations which are English speaking. And the reason for this, in fact, a lot of the fat countries really are English speaking, you know. The reason for this really is that it's easier for the food industry and the weight loss messages and the junk food messages to reach us in English. Also, divorcing from one's own local language means divorcing from one's own local cuisine, one's own local culture. So when it comes to food, I'm going to urge all of you to speak in your own mother tongue. आपके बच्चों को वहाँ का local language आ जाएगा. Whether it is English, they will be able to speak in English. Whether it's Dutch, whether it's any other language, it's German, they will pick it up. They will pick it up with an accent which will not sound like yours and mine. So you don't need to worry about that. What you should worry about is that typically in India, any kid is able to speak at least 4 languages without much trouble. We all know that the more languages we know, the better off we are in terms of our health and well-being. But just in terms of our waistline, if you speak in more languages, you have a better buy-in into your cuisine and culture. So the next time you say a dosa or a paratha or a upma or a thalipeeth, no one turns around and says, what's that, you know? And then you don't need to make an English word for it and say, oh well, that's an all grain, all millet bread that Baba's making. You know, you can actually, they will actually know what thalipeeth is. So local food heritage, which supporting local markets, respecting your food heritage, speaking about food in your own mother tongue, that's the one basic that you need to look at. Now let's look at all of your main meals, your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, and how you go about having them. Sorry, quick. All right, sorry. So when it comes to breakfast, well, you know, Gina, Soumya, my mother, they're all going to be talking about a whole lot of detailed stuff. So don't worry, even if you don't find a lot of details in my talk, they're coming soon. We want to set the basics right for you. So when it comes to your breakfast, don't open packets and eat them. Eat more from your food heritage. What can you have from your food heritage? Well, you can have poha, you can have upma, you can have dosa, and no, they're not time consuming. You know, you all know this, that if you roast a little bit of upma and then just keep it, or just roast a little bit of rava and keep it, then in the morning, if you just add boiled water to it and cook it for a few minutes, you can have a good meal. So at least on weekends, that's the stuff that you should be doing. Instead of having breads which are you know, fully packaged and stuff like that, buy fresher breads from smaller bakeries. And of course, while you are there, you can have it with various things, but instead of just having, of course, with butter, full fat butter and stuff, but instead of necessarily having it with like a peanut butter or with tahini and stuff, also try and make your own local chutneys. So try a local, you know, try your own peanut chutney, try your own til chutney, try your own curry patta chutney. That way at least your breakfast is tasty without you having to do too much work in the kitchen. So that is something which you can do. You could have it with an egg, you can have it with a piece of cheese, you can have it with some paneer. So that's something that you can do for your breakfast. You know, in your mid-meal between your breakfast and lunch, try and have a fresh fruit or have a nimbu sharbat, pack it nicely in a bottle, and you know, you can take it with you in the car and drink it For lunch, it could be roti, jaggery, ghee. It could be the same sandwich that you had for breakfast. It could be an upma with veggies. It could be a thali pit that you have made, or very simply it could just be last night's rice that you gave tadka to and had with a bowl of dahi. Or you could even just have dahi rice for that matter. Khichdi is something which you can also have, you know, for lunch. For dinners, and this is something that I ask all my clients to do, because I do know that one of the fundamentals of staying fit is eating more fresh, and people living abroad tend to just store a whole lot of things in their refrigerators. You know, you will know that you're getting healthier with time if you actually begin to use lesser space in your refrigerator. So on a one day, you know, when you open the refrigerator and it seems empty, or at least one of its compartments seems empty or lighter, or you can just put your hand in and you know what it is, and you don't really need a smart refrigerator, but you actually become smart about what is where in your refrigerator. I think that's the day when you would have lost a few inches of your stomach or of your waist. All right, so in the night, try and make a good hot meal for yourself. So some of the things that you can do is, before leaving for work, you can make rice and dal, basically just rice and dal, soak it in water before you rush out. Come back home, simply pressure cook it, and you can have fresh dal rice, or you know, something like varan bhat. The same thing, but you want it even faster. Mix rice and dal together, soak it in water, leave it, come back home, you can make a khichdi out of it. Other things that you can do is, you know, just soups of your dal. So you can make kulit ka dal, you can make garbanzo beans ka dal, you can make well, you know, masoor ka dal, and these, or you can make chole, you could make chana, because these kind of dals go very well with just bread and butter too. So if you are like kind of short on time, what you will need to do is just soak this dal a little bit in the morning when you leave, and then when you come back, just cook it, and that way you're having a hot meal, and you know, with a toast or a bread or something. So those are the basic few ideas that I had for your meals. I also think that one of the things that you can do to make life easier for yourself is have like these glass bowls, like these kind of glass bowls, where a week in you know, ahead, just put whatever that you want to have, whether it's chole or it is rajma ya jo bhi, and set it up on your counter, so that every morning you don't have to take it out from wherever that you have kept it and then soak it in water and allow it to be a little moist when you come. So prepare for this every weekend. In fact, I think right now is a really good time, because most of you are working from home, so you don't really have that excuse of, by the time I come back I'm too tired. So maybe what you can do is actually do a rehearsal of what life would be like in the new normal or post-COVID, and have these little glass ones where you just soak things and go, and then in the evening you can just come and cook them. So that's something that you should be doing in terms of food. In terms of exercise, very quickly, every single day at least 5 Surya Namaskars. You can do them anytime, either in the morning or in the evening. Morning is better for some of you evening is better. For a whole lot of you, I do know that you know, your workspaces actually encourage you to take breaks and to exercise, so you can actually do that even within your office hours, something which you couldn't do maybe if you were here in India. So at least 5 Surya Namaskars every single day, 30 minutes of strength training at least once every week, no matter what, and walk around as much as you can. Walk, cycle, especially for those of you who are living in the city, use that opportunity. For all those of you who are not living in the city, don't make it a habit to just be like garage mein gaya, gaadi mein baitha aur nikal gaya. Like create more scope for walking and cycling every single day, especially right now when you don't really have to travel to work. So make sure that you're exercising half an hour every single day, 150 minutes every week. That's the minimum that you need to log in. Make sure that you're logging that in terms of exercise. And lastly, when it comes to sleep, do know that if you're not sleeping very well, and I know that a whole lot of you suffer from poor sleep quality once you shift abroad, is take a little bit of ghee and rub it on the soles of your feet just before you go to bed. Don't worry about how it will smell. It doesn't even smell, because you only need a little bit. So all that you need is, what you will get on your little pinky, and put that on your on the soles of your feet, and then just rub it till your hand feels warm. That's one tip for sleeping well. Haldi milk is another tip for sleeping well. And the third most important one is not doing FaceTime and Skype and WhatsApp videos with folks back home in India at weird hours in the night, or in the morning. So it's very, very important that after about 7 or 8 p.m. in the night, you're kind of staying away from your gadget, so that you actually have the time to unwind and go to bed. So yeah, I think just keep up with those basics of sleep, and you should be able to eat well, work out well, and sleep well, even while you're living abroad. So all the best with that. And now if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. Okay.
So extreme weather, like very cold and then very hot in places like Middle East.
I know. So one of the wonderful things that I learned in Middle East, so I do feel that if you're in Middle East or if you're in Africa, you not just have a rich food culture that you belong to, but you've also gone to a place with a very, very rich food culture. Africa especially, with the influence of shosho, which is your African grandmother, you have grains, you have millets, you have root vegetables, just so many root vegetables, all kinds of sweet potatoes, colors which we never get to see anywhere across the globe, the most precious avocados. I think even people who are living in South America, even you guys have decent, good, fresh food. Everyone in UAE, good food culture, whether it is hummus, whether it is good in the Middle East, good olives ka chutney, olives ka achar and stuff. But one of the things that I learned, which I think is beautiful, I learned this from one of my Arab clients, is that her grandmother would eat dates and dahi when it was extremely hot. And then she would eat dates and til ka paste, like a tahini kind of a thing, when it was really cold. And I thought that this is so similar to the Indian food culture. So here are quick things that you can do when it's very hot. Nachni, or the finger millet, okay, and not in terms of puffs, and not in terms of crackers, and not in terms of the processed stuff, but the actual nachni ka atta. You can make porridge out of it, you can and have that for breakfast, you can make dosa out of it, have it for lunch or dinner, you can make laddus or buddies out of it and have it as a mid-meal. So you can have nachni when it is very hot, you can have dahi and chas, and you can use kefir to set fresh curd, fresh fruit when it is very hot. And a lot of countries have like their own variety of fresh fruit when it's hot, so you can use that. And sharbat, so whether it is nimbu sharbat, kokum sharbat, make those sharbats and you can have them. So this is what you do in the summers. In the winters, bajra or makai ka atta, jaggery, and especially jaggery and ghee every time you eat bajra ya makai ka atta. More pulses. so kurit and stuff like that. And for all those of you who live in the European region, also kale in the winters. जैसे यहाँ पर सरसों का साग बनता है, वैसे वहाँ पर ज़्यादा kale और बाकी local green vegetables बनते हैं. So more of that. So just tweak your diet, so you now know that your food heritage diet stays the same. So your dals and pulses and millets and spices and oils can stay the same. They just change according to the season. You do know bajra for winters and jowar for summers. And this side, which is the vegetables and the fruits and the milk and the milk products and the fish and meat and stuff like that, that you change according to what is in season in the region that you're living in. So that's how you make that blend of going from winters to summers.
Okay, can you quickly say something about frozen food, oats, cooking oil for, you already mentioned cooking oil, so frozen food?
Frozen foods and oats, all right. See, oats is something which doesn't really belong to us. We were not really eating at least those packaged oats. So what you can do instead is, if you want to eat something which is rich in fiber and it's a millet, eat more of laya. There were many places where we would eat jawar ka laya or nachni ka laya, which look like they look like little popcorns. And what else would we eat? Rajgira laddu and milk. You can have all of those as quick and easy breakfast options. You must remember that when you belong to a food culture like India, you are already eating a lot of plant-based food. Dominantly your diet is plant-based with some meat every now and then based on based on the community that you come from or based on the number of times you eat it. I think maximum that your food heritage will allow you to eat meat is about 5 times a week. You will never land up eating beyond that. And every time you eat it, it will still be with a grain, it will still be with some bhaji, it will still be with some raita. So you don't really have to go about searching for fiber in your diet. That's only true for people who are eating a cold cereal for breakfast, who are picking up a muffin and coffee for breakfast, who are grabbing a sandwich on the go for lunch, and who are just eating a grilled steak or a grilled chicken breast for dinner. They need to go about searching for fiber. For you, in your regular diet, there is enough fiber, so you don't need to really go in for oats. That's one. The second thing is that what about frozen vegetables? So if you are in places where it is, where you go through extreme weather changes, where you go through long periods where you don't get anything fresh at all, it is much better to use frozen vegetables and fruits than to not have any vegetables and fruits at all. So make that choice, but only for those months, and the rest of the times fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. As far as cooking oil goes, filtered or cold pressed groundnut oil, filtered or cold pressed mustard oil, filtered or cold pressed coconut oil, depending on the food region and the cuisine that you belong to. हम लोग बहुत cooking oil से अपने we changed it to more canola or whatever else that it is called, but the whole thing is that they aren't any healthier, or we just changed it blindly to olive oil, but they aren't any healthier than the cooking oils that you already belong to. And now in US, even in places like Costco, you get groundnut oil, cold pressed groundnut oil. In fact, I think that there are also breakfast cereals that you now get with haldi, and it's over a period of time. I think you're going to be able to just buy poha off the shelf, because the West is really adopting all of the food heritage from places like India and South America and Africa really quickly now.
Okay, quickly about bread and cheese.
Bread and cheese is fine. Bread and cheese is a good combination, but I feel that if you do want a nice and wholesome bread and cheese, then make some chutney also, some pudina chutney or a coconut chutney with lots of mirchi, and I think it will taste good. Okay, I have one very, very practical tip. I do know that the mirchi in the West is not as tikha a lot of times as the mirchi that we get here, but if you still like tikha, what you can do is make that mirchi wala chutney with pudina and stuff, and then add a little bit of black or green pepper, and then you will have the nice kind of tikka in your chutney. When it comes to cheese, the fresher the cheese, the better it is. You do belong to a place where you do have access to a lot of fresh cheese that gets made. You will find it in farmers markets. Support your local farmers and get fresher. The fresher the cheese, the better the cheese.
Last question. So can you quickly again tell that the grains and pulses and all should we bring from India, or
Oh,
like,
well, you
how does
know,
that
you
work?
don't need to bring them from India. You can buy them from Indian stores. You can buy them from any kind of places. You cook them the Indian way. In fact, I think someone told me that in Canada there is also something called as a Gujarati factory, you know, where you get all of these things, and then you also get all the farsan and stuff. So you have Patel stores in the US all over. You have a thriving community in the UK when it comes to having dals and grains and pulses and spices. So you can either buy right from, you can just buy from there, you know. So that way when you come in, when you come to India, you don't have too much shopping on your mind, at least not too much food shopping on your mind. And when you do come to India, do eat as diverse as you can, you know. Do drink water from your home, because you do want to rebuild all of that friendly gut bacteria. All right, thank you very much for watching. It was wonderful chatting with you. I think Jinal takes over tomorrow, so she will be live from her own handle. You know where to find her. You can see her handle on my story, so follow her if you're not following her already. Same goes with Soumya and also with my mother Rekha Divekar. So for the next 4 days we are going to be talking to you about various aspects of your health and well-being. I hope this was helpful. I've enjoyed myself and I hope to see you all soon. Stay well, stay safe, eat your hearts out, exercise and sleep on time. Bye bye. Thank you for watching.